Welcome back to the Privacy Report. We're the show that helps you understand, well, how all this digital stuff really affects your privacy and your safety online.
Yeah, and today we're looking at something you probably use every single day, but maybe don't think too much about the security behind it.
Exactly. We're talking about your Wi-Fi network. That little box, blinking away in the corner.
hmm It's your main gateway to the internet, most likely. And the encryption it uses, well, that's a whole story of security successes and, frankly, quite a few failures over the years.
It really is a moving target, isn't it? Threats just keep evolving.
They absolutely do. So our mission today is basically to walk you through that evolution. How did we get from really weak beginnings to, well, the much stronger protections we have now?
The idea is to give you the background so you can make smarter choices. Know what you're actually using.
Understand the history, understand the risks, understand what you should be doing now.
Right. And before we dive in, just a quick reminder, you can get more insights like this by subscribing to our email newsletter over at theprivacyreport.net.
Definitely worth checking out.
Okay, so let's kick things off. We're going to start at the very beginning with the first attempt at Wi-Fi security.
Ah, yes. WEP, Wired Equivalent Privacy.
That name, that sounds promising, right? Wired equivalent? Like plugging in a cable?
It does, but yeah, it really wasn't. WEP came about in the late 90s when Wi-Fi was just starting to get popular.
But it was flawed from the get-go, wasn't it? Why did it fail so badly?
Well, it boiled down to a couple of key things. It used an older encryption method, RC4, but the way it used it was the real problem, and its key handling was just weak.
Weak how?
The keys didn't change often, and part of the key, this thing called an initialization vector, or FWIV, was short, reused constantly, and sometimes even sent without encryption.
Okay, so if the keys don't change and you keep reusing this IV thing,
Exactly. An attacker could just listen in, collect enough data packets.
you'll figure out the key.
Pretty much, yeah. By the early 2000s, tools were everywhere online that could crack a WEP network, sometimes in just a few minutes if there was enough traffic. It was a total mess.
So clearly something had to be done fast. Static keys were obviously a non-starter.
Right. So the industry response around 2003 was WPA, Wi-Fi Protected Access.
WPA. Okay, was this the big fix?
Well, interestingly, WPA was always meant to be temporary, a stopgap. WP was so broken it was actually hurting Wi-Fi adoption. They needed something quick while they worked on a proper long-term solution.
A patch, basically. So what did WPA do better than WP?
The main improvement was something called TKIP, Temporal Key Integrity Protocol. The key word there is temporal.
Meaning the keys changed.
Exactly. TKIP made the keys dynamic. It generated a new key for, like, every single data packet. That made those old WEP cracking techniques based on collecting static key data much, much harder.
Okay, that sounds like a huge step up, but you said it was temporary. Why?
Because WPA and TKIP were designed to run on the existing WEP hardware. It was mostly a software fix, so it was still kind of built on that shaky WP foundation, fundamentally. It bought time, basically, for new hardware to roll out that could support something better.
Right. It patched the biggest hole but didn't rebuild the house.
Good analogy.
And that better thing, that new house, arrived in 2004.
Yep, WPA2. That became the mandatory standard for any device wanting that Wi-Fi certified logo, and really dominated for, well, over a decade.
WPA2. Okay, so what made WPA2 the sort of gold standard for so long?
The big change was ditching TKIP and moving to a much stronger encryption algorithm called AES, specifically AES-CCNP.
AES, I've heard of that. Advanced Encryption Standard. That's still widely used today, isn't it?
Absolutely. AES is a globally recognized, very strong encryption standard. So moving to AES was a massive security upgrade. For years, WPA2 felt, pretty solid, like a concrete bunker, as you said earlier.
But, oh, I sense a but coming. No standard lasts forever, right? Even the gold standard eventually showed cracks.
Indeed. And the interesting thing with WPA2 is that the major vulnerability when it finally came wasn't about breaking AES encryption itself. AES is still considered secure.
Okay, so if it wasn't the encryption, what was it?
It was the process. In 2017, researchers revealed the KRACK attack, key reinstallation attack. And this was a big deal.
KRAC. Okay, why was that such a shock? What did it actually do?
KRAC attacked the handshake process. When your device, like your phone, connects to the router, there's this sort of digital handshake where they agree on a temporary key for that session.
Right, to keep the conversation private.
Exactly. KRAC found flaws in how devices handled that handshake, specifically if messages got repeated or resent. An attacker could trick a device into reinstalling an already used key, or sometimes even a key that was all zeros.
So hang on, the encryption lock, AES, was strong, but the way devices agreed on the key and lock the door was flawed. The attacker could mess with the key exchange.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. By messing with that handshake, an attacker could potentially decrypt traffic they captured, even though AES itself wasn't broken. Patches came out quickly to fix the immediate problem.
But the damage was done conceptually. It showed a fundamental weakness in WPA2's core protocol.
Precisely. It made it crystal clear that we needed a new standard, built from the ground up, to address these handshake vulnerabilities.
Which brings us to the current standard, WPA3, released in 2018. This was designed specifically to fix what KRCK exposed, right?
Yes, WPA3 tackles those WPA2 weaknesses head-on. There are a few key improvements, but probably the biggest one for security is a new handshake method.
Okay, what's different about it?
It's called SAE, Simultaneous Authentication of Equals. The big advantage of SAE is how it handles password guessing.
How so?
With the old WPA2 handshake, an attacker could capture the handshake data, take it offline, and then just hammer away at it with password lists, dictionary tags, brute force trying to guess your password. No need to interact with your network anymore.
Okay. They could work on cracking it at their leisure.
Right. SAE changes that, uses a more advanced key exchange method.
Yeah.
Even if an attacker captures the whole SAE handshake, the math behind it prevents those effective offline guessing attacks. They'd have to try guessing passwords live, interacting with your network for each guess.
Which is much slower, much noisier, and easier to detect.
Much harder for the attacker. It dramatically reduces the risk from weak passwords being guessed offline. That's a huge win.
Definitely. Okay, what else does WPA3 bring? I think you mentioned forward secrecy.
Yes, forward secrecy. This is incredibly important for long-term privacy.
Explain that one. What does forward secrecy actually mean for, my data?
Okay, so it means that the encryption keys used for your current Wi-Fi session are generated in a way that they aren't directly tied to your main Wi-Fi password long-term.
Yeah.
So let's say someone, somehow, maybe years from now, gets hold of your Wi-Fi password. With forward secrecy, they still can't use that password to go back and decrypt traffic they might have captured today or yesterday or last week.
Got it. So compromising the main password later doesn't compromise past conversations. The security of old data doesn't depend on keeping the main key secret forever.
Exactly. Each session's security stands more on its own. It's a massive privacy protection against future breaches or password leaks. WPA3 also mandates stronger encryption overall, especially for enterprise networks.
So WPA3 sounds significantly better. It fixes the handshake, adds forward secrecy. Why isn't absolutely everyone using it right now? Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, you'd think so. The main hurdle is backward compatibility.
Making sure older devices still work.
Right. You've got phones, laptops, smart TVs, maybe smart light bulbs that are a few years old and might only support WPA2. So many routers default to a mixed mode, WPA2, WPA3 to let everything connect.
Which means you might not be getting the full WPA3 protection unless you specifically tell your router to only use WPA3.
Correct. Convenience often trumps maximum security by default. You, the user, often have to go into your router settings and actively choose WPA3 only, assuming all your important devices support it.
That's a really critical point. The best standard doesn't help if it's not actually being enforced.
Exactly. Which leads us nicely into the fact that standards are only part of the picture. You also need good security habits, good digital hygiene.
Right. Even with WPA3 running, you can still leave the door unlocked in other ways.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's run through some practical, actionable steps listeners should take right now. What's top of the list?
Update your router's firmware. Seriously. If you haven't checked for an update in, say, 6 months or more, you're probably vulnerable.
Firmware updates are basically security patches from the manufacturer, right? They fix known holes.
Exactly. Attackers actively scan for routers running old, vulnerable firmware. Not updating is like leaving a known faulty lock on your front door. Check if your router has an auto-update option and turn it on if it does.
Okay, update firmware. What's next?
Go into those router settings we mentioned. Check which security protocols are enabled. If you see options for WEP or the original WPA, disable them.
Why disable the old ones if you're using WPA2 or WPA3?
Because of something called protocol downgrade attacks. An attacker might be able to trick your device into connecting using the weakest protocol the router offers, even if stronger ones are available. So get rid of the really insecure options completely.
Makes sense. Lock down the options. What else?
Passwords. Even with WPA3's better handshake, A strong, unique password for your Wi-Fi is still absolutely essential. No password 123 or dictionary words. Use a long passphrase.
Use a password manager to generate and store it if you need to.
Good idea. And finally, something a bit more advanced but really important for modern homes. Network segmentation.
Segmentation.
Yeah.
Separating devices onto different networks.
Yeah, or at least different virtual networks if your router supports it.
Mm.
The idea is to keep your critical devices, your computers, your phones, where you do banking and stuff on one network.
And put all those other potentially less secure smart devices, smart speakers, cameras, maybe the fridge on a separate guest or IoT network.
Exactly that. Those cheaper IoT gadgets are often full of security holes and rarely get updated. If one of them gets compromised, segmentation stops the attacker from easily jumping over to your laptop and stealing your important data. It creates fire breaks.
That's a really smart layer of defense. Isolate the risk.
It is. It's becoming more and more necessary with so many connected devices.
It really is amazing tracing this whole journey from WEP, which was basically broken on arrival,
Through the stopgap WPA, the long reign of WPA2, and its eventual KRACK.
all the way to WPA3 with SAE and forward secrecy, plus these modern hygiene practices like segmentation. It shows security is never, ever done.
It's a constant evolution. And, while WPA3 is our best bet today, the security community is already looking ahead,
Yeah.
thinking about the next big threat,
Which is,
quantum computers.
yeah.
Machines powerful enough to potentially break much of the encryption we rely on today, including things like AES over the very long term.
Ah, the quantum threat. So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. As we start developing and eventually deploying post-quantum cryptography, new encryption methods resistant to quantum computers, how might that change what concepts like forward secrecy even mean?
Yeah, if the underlying maths changes completely, does the guarantee of past security against future computing power look different? It's a fascinating question about securing data, not just for tomorrow, but for decades from now.
Definitely something to think about as you go check those router settings tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Privacy Report.
We really hope this breakdown helps you understand your Wi-Fi security better and take those crucial steps to protect yourself.
If you found this helpful, please do like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It helps others find the show. Mandatory disclaimer. This episode was made with the assistance of AI.